All right, so my next guest, he notes that earnings, margins, and estimates that they've held up, but the cavalry has to come no later than September. Joining me now, Great Hill Capital Chairman Thomas Hayes. All right, Thomas, who's coming to the rescue?
Well, I think it's time for the Fed to come to the rescue. We have a little bit of election year seasonality right now. We've got this August strength, which is normal since 1955. August is strong, the early part of
in election years.
In election years, since 1955. So you get a strong August, you get a strong first half of September. But interestingly enough, it rolls over late September, early October, which is coincident with the cavalry coming, doing the first cut. And what we also know historically is the market tends to sell off after the first cut, even though it's often up 12 months out, et cetera. So I think a little bit of strength. Let's dance while they're playing the music,
right?
And then get a little conservative ahead of the election and year-end rally.
So that's interesting because I've always kind of seen you as a buy and hold, not necessarily a guy who says, hey, we've got to be a little bit nimble here.
Yeah.
Also, though, you're not big on the Mag 7. You do point out that their earnings growth is decelerating while the rest of the S&P is going up. But I'm going to put on the screen now, this is just one of the, it's decelerating, but for next year, Mag 7 at 20% is still the best outside of the Russell 2000, right? So even though equal weight is going to go to 12% from 5% and the overall S&P 14% from 7%, 20% is nothing to sneeze at, is it?
No, it's absolutely not. And I think the theme here is that they're going to have relative underperformance. So under the surface, the unmagnificent 493, you're going to see some stocks double. You're going to see some stock triple. There aren't many Mag 7 stocks you're going to see double and triple over the next 12, 18, 24 months. You're actually seeing it with all these activists buying up these cheap stocks that we're talking about. You know, like Nike, you saw Ackman, like Ulta, you saw Berkshire, like Starbucks, you see Elliott. So you see the activists starting to get into this cheap value, and I think that's going to be the theme for the next 18 months.
You know, I've been pointing that out to my subscribers as well. You could see it in some of these, and it's been some of these sessions where like, whoa, this is it. And these are names that are huge and just, you know,
that you can sleep at night.
Right, and they, you know, listen, new management is amazing. I love when a company brings on new management. Okay, let's talk about money supply before we get to the stocks, because money supply, you're saying, is picking up. So between money supply picking up and a friendlier Fed, isn't that a pretty good gust of wind in the sales in the market?
No question about it. So I think we get through this period here, a little bit of strength, a little weakness, a little uncertainty ahead of the election, but you cannot fight the increased money supply, $500 billion since the beginning of the year. The Fed will start to ease. All the risks that we're seeing, the cracks under the surface, defaults increasing, auto loans, delinquencies, et cetera, the cavalry needs to come to ameliorate that, because if you get into a situation, we saw little cracks in the labor market. If they let that go, we could start to face deflation, and deflation is very hard to fix. Inflation they can manage.
I got 1 minute. Let's go over two stocks. Boeing, speaking of new management. Now, it wasn't Larry Culp, which I'm glad because I own GE stock, but this guy's got a pretty good resume.
Yeah, Kelly Ortberg, Rockwell Collins. He got there. It was a $7 billion market cap in 2012. He sold the business for $30 billion 6 years later. This guy knows how to create shareholder value in industrials. And
does he know how to keep a door on a plane?
Well, this is the beauty. Finally, at Boeing, we're going to have an engineer versus a salesman running the company. His first day he spent on the floor of the factory, and the United CEO he met with yesterday, he says, I've got renewed confidence in Boeing now that I've met with the new CEO. This is a great thing. At the end of the day, it's a duopoly. It's good to be the king. If you don't want the
planes, not only a duopoly, but if you look at the demand for aircraft, commercial aircraft for the next 20 years, this was a stock that I used to tell people never to sell, and it's almost going to get back there. Less than 30 seconds. Cooper Standard. What is it?
We bought this in May of 2022 at $5.10. They refinanced the debt. It went up to 22. Now it's back down to 13. We haven't sold a share. We bought more shares, and I'll tell you why. Every single cycle in the last 45 years, you've had 18 million SAR is the peak, the sell-through total vehicle sales in the United States. We're at 15.8 right now. If they just get to 16.1, forget about 18, which they'll do this cycle, the business is going to earn $3 a share. You add a trough multiple of 10 times, you got a $30 stock. You add a peak multiple of 20 times, you have a $60 stock. And God forbid we actually get to 18 million SAR peak, this thing could fly. So we're excited about this one.
All right, good stuff, man. I like that you bring these ideas that no one else is talking about.
Thank you.
Good stuff, Thomas. Appreciate it. All right, folks, Kamala Harris